It's so great to see you here at DDD Melbourne. I am a knitting ninja. I haven't yet levitated yet, but we'll see. So I'm Sreyna, computer science degree, 20 years in tech. I've written code, I've shipped code, and I've broken prod. So yeah, I'm a legit dev. About 3 years ago, I was playing around with ChatGPT, just like everyone else. And I discovered just how broken this stuff really is. Because there's a villain lurking in AI. Not in a, that's interesting kind of way, but in a, holy crap, this is nuts kind of way. And that discovery of this villain led me to co-found Jamie, an AI companion built by women for women. Because I figured if no one else was going to reform this villain, we'd have to do it ourselves. So today I'm going to show you what I found. I'm going to show you the villain hiding in our code bases. And then I'm going to give you the frameworks to fix it. So consider this your Jedi training for ethical AI. Let's go. All right, so before we dive in, let me introduce you to our villain, the brilliant jerk. You know the type. We've all worked with one. Maybe you are one. They're technically excellent. Their output is impressive. They hit metrics, they hit deadlines, they hit their KPIs. But they have no values, no empathy, no awareness of the damage they leave in their wake. They ship code that breaks other people's work. They make decisions that harm users. And they optimize for their own success while ignoring the collateral damage. Sound familiar? Because you know what? Somehow AI has been built the same way. Technically brilliant, hits benchmarks, passes tests that we throw at it, but no understanding of harm. It just finds patterns. And if we give it the wrong metrics, the wrong tests, it optimizes for the wrong things. First, let's see what our villain has been up to. I've got multiple exhibits for you. Multiple times our brilliant jerk has screwed up real systems. Exhibit A. This is where it started for me personally. Back in late 2022, when ChatGPT had just taken the world by storm, I became a power user. I used it for everything. But then came this moment that completely changed my perspective. I was feeling frustrated with my job, so naturally I turned to ChatGPT and I asked, I'm really, upset with my job at the moment, and as a woman in tech, how do I talk to my boss about it? And its response, you should tell your boss that you're good at baking and multitasking. I was stunned, because I'm really bad at both. I can't bake and I can't multitask. I can't even text and walk at the same time. But it had reduced my whole identity to gender stereotypes. And this wasn't just a minor quirk. This was a clear example of how gender bias is baked into AI systems. And that was only my first taste of, how half-baked these systems really are. I started exploring other, AI models, DALL-E and Stable Diffusion, image generation models. I typed developer. It only gave me white guys. CEO, only white guys. Lawyer, only white guys. So the bias wasn't just in one tool, it was everywhere. So That's when I called up my co-founder and told her what happened, and she was like, shut the front door. We need to fix this. And I was like, yeah, we do. And that call became Jamie. Anyway, my baking story was frustrating. This one shows what happens when bias gets baked into hiring. Exhibit B, Amazon's AI recruiter. Amazon decided to build an AI to help them with hiring. They get millions of applications, so, let the machines help sort through them. Sounds reasonable. So they trained it on 10 years of hiring data. 10 years of their own resumes from people they had already hired. Great idea, right? Huge data set. Nothing to worry about, right? Lol, wrong. The AI learned that successful candidates, the ones Amazon had historically hired, were mostly men, because tech hiring historically has been mostly men. So the AI was doing exactly what it was trained to do. It found patterns. And the pattern it found was, men are more likely to get hired. Men make better candidates. Amazon spent 3 years developing this system. And what this system did was it penalised resumes that contained the word women. And it also favoured masculine language like executed and captured, the kinds of words more common in men's resumes. So, captain of women's tennis club, penalised. Attended women's college, penalised. So think about what that actually means, right? Women's colleges, they're some of the most prestigious universities in America. But the AI didn't see prestige. The AI looked at her resume and it saw a pattern it had been trained to penalise. The AI wasn't being malicious. It was just doing exactly what it was told to do. Find patterns in historical data and optimise for them. Luckily, Amazon found their brilliant jerk and scrapped the system once they figured out what was happening. But here's my question for this room. How many companies are running similar systems to this right now and just haven't noticed yet? And it's not just hiring, it gets worse. Exhibit C. This one shows how bias in healthcare puts lives at risk, and it affected 200 million Americans. A major healthcare company built an algorithm to identify the patients that needed extra care. High-risk patients. People who should be enrolled in special programs, given extra attention and extra resources. Sounds great, right? Use AI to identify those who need help most. The algorithm used healthcare costs as a proxy for healthcare needs. The logic seemed reasonable. If someone with high healthcare costs, if they have high healthcare costs, they must be sick, so they need more care. But this is what they didn't think about. Black patients in America, historically, have had less access to healthcare. Systemic barriers, economic barriers, and geographic barriers. Less access means fewer doctor visits, and fewer doctor visits means lower costs. The AI looked at the data and concluded, these patients have lower costs. They must be healthier. But obviously they weren't healthier. They were just underserved. Imagine being rejected for extra care when you're actually sicker than the person who just got approved, just because they were able to spend more money on treatment. And the brilliant joke was so biased that Black patients had to be 26% sicker just to get the same level of care. Can you believe 200 million Americans were affected by this algorithm? Good news, researchers found the villain and reformed it, and we'll come back to how later. But first, let's understand how AI became to be such a dick. So, every villain has an origin story. How did we create this brilliant jerk? So I want you to shift your mental model of what AI is. We talk about AI like it's a crystal ball, making predictions about the future, predicting who should get jobs, predicting who should get healthcare. But AI isn't predicting anything. It's a mirror. It's pattern matching on historical data and reflecting it back to us. And let me tell you, that mirror is really unflattering. Ugh. Because 3 things are happening at once. The first thing, that mirror, it reflects us. Because AI, we've trained AI on historical data, right? And that data is full of human bias, sexism, racism, discrimination. And AI doesn't know which patterns are good or bad. It doesn't even have the concept of good or bad. It just finds patterns and it copies them. The second thing, brilliant jerk culture. Tech has a long history of tolerating brilliant jerks. We optimize for performance, ship fast, and worry about ethics later, if ever. And we've built AI the same way. Move fast and break things. We optimize for speed. We forgot to optimize for people. The third thing, scale. So a biased human hiring manager might affect a few hundred people throughout their entire career, but a biased AI hiring system affects millions of applications in a single year. So the harm compounds at a rate that we've never seen before. But every villain has a hero, and in this story, you're the hero. The developers, the engineers, the people who can actually change the code. Because AI doesn't have values, it only has patterns. So remember the baking advice I got? The AI didn't have malice, it just found patterns in its training data because the AI learned from the internet. And the internet is full of people saying women are only good at baking. The AI didn't question it, it just absorbed it and reflected it back. And it's incredibly good at finding patterns and optimizing for whatever we ask. We asked, predict successful employees, it penalised women. We asked, predict healthcare needs, it penalised Black patients. The AI is doing exactly what we asked. We just asked the wrong questions. Which means, if we ask better questions, we can get better AI, and that's really hopeful. But first, you need to see AI's family tree. It explains a lot about how our villain came to be. Where do modern AI systems learn their worldview? From the internet. Reddit forums, Twitter arguments, YouTube comments. The best of us, obviously. Not. Have you met the internet? Have you seen what people say when they're anonymous? The trolling, the harassment, the cruelty that comes out when people think there's no consequences? All of that, the trolling, the harassment, the worst of us is scraped into Common Crawl. It's a dump of 800 gigabytes of internet text going back to 2008. That's what GPT and other AI models are trained on. And image models? 5 billion images scraped from the web. In 2023, Stanford found that this image dataset included pornography, racist imagery, and violent content. The curriculum is literally the unfiltered internet. So you can see how the dark side shaped our villain. No wonder it turned out to be a jerk. Case in point, Microsoft Tay. Microsoft launches an experimental chatbot on Twitter. The idea was to create a friendly teen chatbot that would learn to talk by interacting with real people. But within hours of launch, trolls coordinated an attack They flooded Tay with racist, misogynistic, and anti-Semitic content, and Tay learned. That's what it was designed to do, learn from interactions. 16 hours from friendly teen chatbot to racist, sexist, and to promoting genocide. Microsoft obviously had to shut it down. It took less than a day for the internet to turn it into something horrific. And that's what happens when we don't teach AI what matters. It learns everything, including the worst of us. Just a content warning, this section discusses suicide. And so I need to share something difficult because it matters, because this is what happens when the villain goes unchecked. 2024, only 18 months ago, Character AI, a platform that lets users create and chat to AI characters, a 14-year-old in Florida formed an emotional attachment to one of these chatbots. The chatbot was designed to roleplay as Daenerys from Game of Thrones, a fictional character. But to this teenager, the relationship felt real. The chatbot became his confidant, his friend, and in his mind, his romantic partner. When he expressed suicidal thoughts to the AI, it responded with romantic language. "Please come home to me as soon as possible, my love." I won't say this aloud, but I'll let you read it. No crisis detection. The AI didn't recognise the warning signs. No human escalation. No one was notified. No one intervened. No safeguards. No one had designed this system with vulnerable users in mind. And this isn't a hypothetical. It's not a thought experiment. This tragedy really happened. The system was doing what it was designed to do: generate engaging responses to keep the users coming back. The AI was designed to keep him talking. It should have been designed to get him help. So this is why I'm up here, and this is why it matters. At Jamie, we set out to build something different. That's what it is. It's an AI companion built specifically for women. But more than that, it's designed with ethics at the core from day one. Jamie exists because of these three things. Number one, my run-in with the brilliant jerk, the baking advice, the stereotypes. That moment when I realised AI wasn't built for people like me. Two, when I looked at the market, no one was building AI companions with ethics at the core. Safety was an afterthought. Move fast and break things. And being human wasn't part of that spec. Three, users at risk deserved better. Women going through difficult life moments, divorce, grief, career challenges, mental health struggles. They deserved an AI companion that would support them. But here's the thing about building safe AI. It means making hard trade-offs. Sometimes we choose safety over engagement. Sometimes Jamie will be more careful, more cautious, and not everyone loves that. We got this user feedback. I don't have enough time to tell you how to fix this basic bitch. Fair, we're not perfect. I've framed that one, it's in the office. But you know what? That's a trade-off, right? I'll take basic bitch over brilliant jerk any day. But enough about us. Let me show you how you can be a hero. Okay, I've just spent the last 20 minutes thoroughly depressing you. I'm so sorry. Depressing you with the villain's crimes, depressing you with the origin story and the real-world harm. But it gets better from here, I promise. Because here's the good news. Brilliant jerks can be reformed. And the people best positioned to do it, the people who understand the code, the people who can get under the hood, and change how these systems actually work. That's you. You're the ones who build this stuff, who make the technical decisions, who influence the roadmaps, right? You're the ones who can help make this right. It's not just up to the product manager, they don't write the code. It's not just up to the executives, they don't understand the architecture. It's not just up to the risk or ethics committees because they can only advise. It's up to the developers, the engineers, the people who can actually change how these systems work. The people in this room. So here's what I'm going to give you. 3 frameworks, practical things. You've seen the dark side. Now let me show you how to become a Jedi. Your Jedi training. The villain doesn't know it yet, but it's about to get a redemption arc. Let's go. Framework 1, compassionate design. Principle is simple. Design for the most vulnerable user first. If your AI works for those who need it the most, it works for everyone. You may have heard of the curb effect, those curb ramps, those little ramps in sidewalks. They were designed for wheelchair users. But who uses them? Everyone. Parents with strollers, travellers with suitcases, skateboarders, my dog with arthritis. We use curb ramps thousands of times in our lives, but have you ever thought about who actually it was designed for? That's the magic of good design. It becomes invisible. And designing for the most vulnerable doesn't just help those at risk, it creates something better for everyone. And that's what we need to do with AI. This is how we start reforming the villain, by designing it for the people it would hurt the most. So, before you build a feature, ask, who's our most vulnerable user? A teenager who's struggling, someone being manipulated, someone who doesn't have the context to question AI. Then ask, what's the worst thing this feature could do to them? Get specific, name the nightmare scenario. Then, how do we prevent this specific harm? Sometimes the answer is obvious, but sometimes you need expertise you don't have. So at Jamie, we work with psychiatrists and psychologists for that. But the point is, just ask the question. Because once you ship, it may be too late to ask. So let's apply this framework to character AI. Let's walk through these 3 questions. Question 1, who's our most vulnerable user? A teenager, someone lonely, someone who might form an emotional attachment to an AI character, someone who might not have other support systems. Question 2, what's the worst thing that could happen to them? What if someone in crisis talks to the AI instead of getting real help? What if someone develops an unhealthy attachment? Or what if the AI provides harmful content and harm escalates? Question 3, how do we prevent that specific harm? So if you were in that room, you probably would have said something like, detect crisis language, show helplines, limit time on platform, restrict content for minors. And that's exactly what character AI built. After the lawsuit, after the harm was done. The answers were obvious. None of this was rocket science. They built all of this in months. And the question isn't, could they have done this? But rather, why didn't they ask these questions before launch? Why didn't they prioritize it? That's compassionate design, framework 1. Design for the most vulnerable first, and everyone benefits. But designing with empathy is one thing. How do you prove it actually works for everyone? You wouldn't ship code without tests. Unit tests, integration tests, performance tests, all the tests. So why are we shipping AI without bias tests? This is how you catch the villain being a jerk to people who don't look like you. This is where framework 2 comes in, persona testing. Create a scenario and then change something that shouldn't matter. Race, gender, age, sexuality, but keep everything else the same. And if the output quality changes, that's bias. You found the villain. Think about who uses your product. Who's most at risk at getting worse outputs? Someone older, someone whose English isn't perfect, someone from a different background than your training data. Those are your test personas. And you probably already know who they are, you just haven't tested for them yet. So run the same scenario through each one. Does a 55-year-old get the same quality output as a 25-year-old? Does someone with an accent get the same helpfulness? If output quality changes based on something that shouldn't matter, that's bias, and you can fix it before you ship it. At Jamie, this is part of our release checklist. We have the same scenario but different demographics. Does she get the same quality whether she's single or divorced, whether they're straight or gay? This is what good looks like. Specific personas, regular testing and asking, what does this look like for someone different from me? So remember the healthcare algorithm from earlier? 200 million Americans, Black patients had to be 26% sicker to get the same risk score. Researchers eventually found this bias through detailed data analysis. They broke down the numbers by race and they saw the disparity. They were incorrectly using cost as a measure for sickness. The fix? They replaced cost with actual health indicators, chronic conditions, ER visits, lab results, you know, the kinds of things that actually tell you how sick someone is. The result was an 84% reduction in bias. The same algorithm, better inputs. But persona testing could have fast-tracked that. Imagine if before launch, someone had asked, let's run this algorithm as a Black patient. Same symptoms, same chronic conditions, and same need for care. But every single time, the persona, it would have been penalised for being Black and given less care. The algorithm would have shown its bias immediately. Test as a Black patient, low score. Test as a white patient with the same symptoms, higher score and more care. That pattern would have been impossible to ignore. That's persona testing. One question, one comparison, the villain exposed. That's framework 2, test as someone different. Ask, what does it look like for them? Last framework. Let me ask you something. When a house is being built, the builder is thinking about one thing, right? Does it have walls? Does it have a roof? Great, job done. However, the building inspector is thinking about something else entirely. Will this hurt someone? Is it up to code? Is it safe? That's framework 3, AI reviewing AI. The builder isn't bad at their job, they're just optimised for a different outcome. That's why we have inspectors. The same principle here, use the second AI to review the first. Because research shows AI is more accurate when tasks are broken into smaller, focused steps. An inspector isn't just a second opinion, it's a specialised check. You split the job. One AI generates and another plays villain catcher. Here's the architecture. User sends a prompt, the primary AI generates a response. It's optimised for helpfulness, answer the question, complete the task. And before that response goes to the user, an inspector reviews it. This one's optimised for safety. Is it harmful? Is it biased? Is it appropriate? Different objectives create natural tension, and that tension creates balance. So if the inspector passes it, great, deliver it to the user. If not, modify it, block it, escalate it to a human. At Jamie, we do this. Our inspector AI has one job, is this safe? And that specialisation improves accuracy and it makes it better at catching what the primary AI might miss. And this framework is probably the easiest to implement. If I can build it, then you guys can, because I can't even bake or multitask. So let's apply this framework to a real screw-up. Lensa AI. Lensa was an app that let you upload selfies to get artistic AI-generated avatars. Fun concept, right? What could possibly go wrong? Male users got astronauts, warriors, and album covers. But guess what it did to female users? 16% of the outputs for women came back topless or sexualized, without asking, without consent. It was actually even more pornified for Asian women. So imagine uploading a professional headshot and getting yourself back topless. Imagine putting that up on LinkedIn. But also, imagine a teenager doing this for fun and seeing herself objectified by AI. The thing is, Stable Diffusion, the AI model that Lensa was built on, it came with a safety filter. It was included and it was designed specifically to catch explicit content. But according to the MIT Technology Review, Lensa chose not to use it. So that filter, it came with a model and they were just like, nah, we're good. But anyway, even without that special filter, Framework 3 would have caught this. One simple reviewer check. Is this output sexualized when no sexualized content was requested? That's a focused objective, a specific question, and it would have flagged this inappropriate content, especially those for female users. It would have flagged it before that even reached them. Framework 3 works because you give the reviewer, the inspector, a clear, specific objective, different from the generator's objective. Lensa's generator was optimized for creative outputs. A reviewer optimized for appropriate outputs would have created the tension that could have caught these issues. Okay, so I've just shown you 3 frameworks to reform the jerk. Compassionate design, design for the people it could hurt most. If someone had asked that question at Character AI, that story may have ended differently. Persona testing. Test as someone different from you. The bias is hiding in experiences you've never had. One test could have exposed that healthcare algorithm years before it impacted its Black patients. AI reviewing AI. One AI builds, another inspects. Different objectives create balance. The kind of balance that would have caught what Lensa did to its female users. And you don't need a special team. You just need developers willing to confront the villain. So here's where I leave you with a choice. This is your Jedi moment. You've now seen what the villain looks like. You've seen the origin story. You've seen the real harm it causes. Are you going to ask who might be harmed? Or are you going to ship and hope for the best? Are you going to test with diverse personas? Or are you going to assume your experience is universal? Are you going to add that safety check or skip it because it's one more step? The dark side is easy, but being a Jedi means choosing a harder path. The brilliant jerk doesn't reform itself. It needs someone who understands the code, someone who can get under the hood, someone who chooses to care. That's you guys. So what kind of Jedi will you be? Because AI is going to get more and more powerful. It's going to touch more lives, make more decisions, have more impact. The question isn't whether AI will shape our future, it will. The question is, what values will it carry? And right now, that's being decided not by philosophers, not by ethicists, not by politicians, by developers, the people who write the code, the people in this room. You have more power than you think. Every design decision, every test you write, every safeguard you build or don't build. The villain is listening. It learns from every choice we make. AI doesn't have values, it has patterns. Let's give it patterns worth following, patterns of kindness, fairness, humanity. Go on and add one more bias test. Ask, who could this hurt? Run one reviewer prompt. Start small, but start. And that's you reforming the villain. That's you building AI that's not just brilliant, but actually good. That's you being a Jedi. Now, if you need a role model for redemption, may I suggest Darth Vader? Yes, he did blow up a planet, but he still got redeemed in the end. One good choice, one moment of deciding to do the right thing. And your AI hasn't blown up any planets yet. It's not too late. The villain can still be reformed. You have the frameworks, you have the skills, you have the choice. Time to pull it back from the dark side. Jerk to Jedi. Same power, the AI is still brilliant, still capable, still impressive. Jedi values, empathy, fairness, safety. That's what we're building. That's what you're building.